Normally, as a driver, you would probably try to avoid these kind of conditions. We're on a frozen lake, there's a lot of snow, a lot of ice. But Škoda decided that they will try to break the record of the longest continuous drift on ice. Behind the steering wheel of the Mamba Green Enyaq on the frozen lake Störtjärnen, located in Krokom, Sweden, was the experienced racer and motoring journalist Richard Meaden, who, by the way, competed in the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb in 2007 and 2008. And in 2011 he set a new world record for a production sedan at Bonneville Speed Week in Škoda Octavia RS, a record he held for 10 years. Now, in an Enyaq RS IV, he's officially broken the Guinness World Record for the longest drift on ice, setting the same record for the electric category at the same time. And we had the chance to interview Dicky right after one of the attempts. Among other things, he explains how hard it is to make this electric SUV do something its electronic assistance systems usually try to avoid. Okay, Richard, welcome to Simply Clever podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
We're in typical Scandinavian teepee. I was told.
Everyone lives in these, don't
yeah,
they? In
probably.
Sweden, I think.
Probably. It's a bit chilly here. Sorry for that. But how is this weather working for you with this attempt?
I think actually what we're finding is the colder it is, the better it is, because the surface is harder and stays fresh. I guess it's like if you're a skier, you don't want icy snow, but you want the freshest surface, and the car and the tyres seem to work best. So yeah, the colder the better.
We should maybe describe like the attempt itself, because for me, I imagine that you just get in the car, close the door, and then I don't know, hit the pedal to the metal and go on.
Funny you should say that, because that's kind of what I thought it would be as well, but it's turned out to be quite a lot harder than. I mean, it's good if you've ever been driven in a car that's sliding around, or if you've done it yourself, it's great fun, but the actual moment where the car is sliding is quite short and brief, and then it straightens up again, and the whole point of what we're doing is to keep the car there and stay there for as long as we possibly can. So it's a very specific challenge, and it's very unforgiving, because you can't let the car straighten up, but obviously you can't spin the car either, so it's just trying to find that balance.
Yeah, and like, is it necessary to get to some specific speed, like before you try the drift itself? I think it might be a characteristic of the Enyaq, because it's an EV. It's got lots of torque, and it comes in straight away. So actually, now that we've done some practice, and then when we started to do the record attempts, quite confident, so you can just put your foot down and turn, and the car will pretty much immediately start to slide, and then you're in it straight away. So the record attempt starts as you've started the slide, and then you just have to keep going for as long as you can. But I don't know if you know that there are two records. So there was an EV record that we could establish, and there was the existing outright distance record for drifting on ice, which were the two things we wanted to do. So to do the EV record, it's 27 laps of our circle, and to set a new outright record, it was 34 laps. So again, it doesn't sound much when you think it's a 60-metre circle, but actually it's like a really big, it's like the best roundabout you've ever driven on the road, kind of thing. Yeah, when you see it on the map of the whole ice track, I was like, okay, this is a pretty small circle. But when I see it like in real world, it's not that small.
I think we were trying to calculate it today. I think to do a full one lap is it was sort of between 16 and 20 seconds, I think. So actually, you have to break the record, you have to be doing it constantly for the best part of 10 minutes, which again doesn't sound very much, but I was talking to the guys, and it's when you're a kid, you're leaning back on your chair, and you're trying to reach that point where it's balanced
Don't do that. This chair is a bit dangerous.
But you don't want to fall off the back, and you don't want to. That's what you're trying to do in the car, is just reach that point where everything's nice and smooth, but keeping it there is really quite tricky, actually.
How long were you training for that? Like, finding this balance with Enyaq.
We spent Monday doing as much practice as we could, and the Škoda Motorsport guys and some of the other technicians were making some adjustments to the car, but we found we had to use a combination of different tyres. So you imagine all you want to do is slip and slide around, but you need quite a lot of traction, and actually it helps to have some grip as well. So we ended up with some really quite aggressive tyres on the front, so with 600 spikes.
Yeah, I've seen the spikes, they're pretty.
And the rear tyres have 300 spikes, and they're much shorter, so it behaves more like a rear-wheel drive car and a front-wheel drive car at the same, because you can use the throttle to pull yourself out of a really big slide, but it still feels quite comfortable sliding the tail. So it's the combination of tyres was the key really to us being able to do this.
I was pretty surprised that Škoda chose the four-wheel drive, because normally as a layman person I would say, like, okay, I want a rear-wheel drive, to spin the wheels and try to keep the car going. So, but as you mentioned, like probably with this slippery not road but surface, you still need to keep let's say control of the traction.
I think you kind of need a reserve of grip, because what we've found is the surface actually, it changes quite a lot in you'd think all ice is as slippery as any other ice, but there's certain patches were really, really slippery, and you could see they were like black, really dark coloured patches of ice that when the car went onto those it would really slide. And then the whiter, rougher bits of ice had a little bit more grip. So you kind of had to try and either miss those patches or predict that the car was going to slide more, and then use the grip and the traction at the front to stop the rear sliding. So it's every lap was different. Like, you were trying to do the same thing, but every lap was slightly different. So it was it's quite easy to be caught out by a slight change in the conditions, because you're trying to balance the car within sort of that amount of steering movement, and any more than that and you run out of steering and then you just go around. It's I was doing the practice runs, I was getting a bit demoralised because it was really quite difficult.
Richard was, by the way, so kind. He took me for a ride on a frozen lake, or maybe should I say for a spin.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Should I fasten the seatbelt?
Yeah, well,
Yes. Just
yeah.
I trust you, but
Okay.
I'm gonna get out. Don't go with me.
I'm going to turn around and go this way. So
Let's run in. Yeah. Okay. That's a way to do that.
yeah, it's a shame there's so much snow. Normally it's a much clearer course. Surfaces, you'll feel if I get it going how much more slippery it is on like this bit.
This feels good. This feels good. Yeah.
Takes a while to. Ah, there you go.
Oh yes.
Turn around.
This is going to a podcast, okay?
So you can feel the throttle. Sometimes it's see, that's full throttle, and it doesn't give you full throttle when it thinks there's a.
Okay, so we're doing laps with Richard Meaden, and obviously this is not the record attempt, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, this snow's made it quite a bit harder than yesterday.
Yeah.
And you kind of get a feel for it as well, but it's always this section.
Yeah, same place as
This
last
is where
time, yeah.
this is where I went off at the end of the record attempt. Same spot, but we'd done 34 laps rather than 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah.
Then you can use the 4-wheel drive to pull it out, so it's quite useful. But it's like driving a rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and 4-wheel drive car all at the same time sometimes, because it's
interesting. Like at some points, I would say that you're already like turning around, and you still can correct it.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah. There were a few times yesterday where I thought, oh no, we're going to spin, and it's almost going backwards, and it still pulled itself around, which was a real relief.
Nice.
So it's an interesting car to try and do this with, because you're learning. Like I said when we were speaking before, you're always learning something about the car or the surface, or just a different. Try and change your line, go wide on some corners and tighter on others. So it's a strange challenge, but it's a fun one, I think. But yeah,
Great.
Good.
That was cool. That was fun.
Good.
Do you think it's any different with the electric car? Because of course, like the characteristic is a little bit different. Maybe even the 4-wheel drive reacts a little bit different than with the regular ICE car.
I think that the cars are really clever, aren't they? They're and actually what we're trying to ask the car to do is something the car is trying not to do.
Doesn't want to do that
all the time, even when the stability control is completely switched off. So the car's sort of trying to talk to you and tell you which wheels are spinning, and you're trying to tell the car, no, I want you to do this, and so you're trying not to fight it. I think that's what I've found, is as soon as you can relax a little bit and your arms are a little bit looser and you're not so tense, then you feel what the car's doing, and it's not so edgy, it just feels easier. But as soon as you start to panic, it might take 2 laps, but you will always go off. It's all in your head, I think.
But you're an experienced driver, so I guess you don't panic there.
It's more frustrating because you can feel it and you sort of think, well, I can do 1 lap or 2 laps or so, why can't I do 20 laps or 30 laps? Because in theory, what you said, it's just sliding around, but it's the one thing that you have to do perfectly every time, and you're always correcting the car all the way around. So you're constantly trying not to crash. It's like a 10-minute crash, but you don't have the crash. It's that kind of thing. So it's nothing. I've done quite a lot of racing, and we did another record at Bonneville, which is the total opposite of this, just going as fast as you can in a straight line. But it's nothing like any of those. It's such an unforgiving challenge and a specific thing. It's nothing like anything I've done before in a car. Yeah,
it must be really difficult to focus for 10 minutes on this like little movements, because as you mentioned, the Bonneville, that's I guess like, okay, you do it. Of course, it's a lot of focus too.
There's more build up to that, and that's. You know, if the car works and everything's fine, then you should get a good run. But with this, it's all on, because the car, I have to say, the cars have been amazing so far. We were because it's very cold, and everyone says about EVs and losing charge, but actually the cars have been brilliant, and you just jump in it and go. So I haven't had to worry about anything like perhaps you would in a conventional car, but that just puts more pressure on the person that's driving it, because it's only you that can mess things up, really.
And I'm just thinking out loud, but it might be even like a little bit easier to do it with the EV, because even though you're like losing power like through the time, like with the petrol car, you would for 10 minutes when you're driving, you kind of like the weight is changing when you
yeah,
when you drive.
I think it would. There's things you learn about an EV that they're different. They're different creatures to a conventional car, and maybe it takes you a little while to tune into what it wants you to do. But I think a petrol car would cope as well. I think that the torque is really nice in the EV, and it's strong, and it's just, I think the simple cars, I think for this sort of thing, are probably easier to make work, because these EVs are so clever and they're so complex, and they take sensor readings from all around the car, and obviously sliding the way we have for as long as we have,
you really have
that's
to
not
kind of
what it should be doing.
outsmart them a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're sort of understanding what the car does, and sometimes if it really does think you've slid too far, and actually you've got your foot flat down because you want it to pull you out of occasionally the car thinks no, the last thing we need is more power, so it doesn't give you that. But you kind of find you're sort of feeling for the point where it's just too far, and you try and stay just the right side of that. So I think the only similarity with the Bonneville record is every time you drive the car, you learn something, and all you try and do is find some more knowledge, so you can then apply it to the next time you get in the car. So it's very addictive. It's massively frustrating when you don't get it right, but it's really addictive, because actually.
But you look like you're enjoying that pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think because I can probably tell you this. We did quite well today in our practice run. So the way the Guinness records work is that they will obviously need to officially approve what we did today, because the Guinness observer wasn't watching, but we can provide him with GPS information and in-car footage and drone footage, and we have independent observers, and it's very rigid and well organised in that sense. Yeah. But I if you'd spoken to me this morning, I'd be, because I was.
You're smiling right now.
Yeah, so it was great fun.
You're
sliding around on a frozen lake, so it's got to be good fun, hasn't it?
But like as you mentioned, you will have to wait for the official results, but you will keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. We know the number of laps that we've done, and assuming all is good, then that's really good news. But like anyone else that sees a record, they want to do better. We know what we've done, and we've got plenty of time this week left. Yeah. So we'll spend the next few days trying to beat our own unofficial record currently.
And do you have some magic number in your head, like, okay, I want to do 42 laps?
Well, it would be nice to do 50 laps, wouldn't it, really? That's a nice number.
It's a nice number, yeah, round one.
And I think the car would do it fine. One thing we have learnt is the track changes quite a lot between starting the run when it's all perfect and halfway through you've thrown quite a lot of ice powder across, so it gets slipperier in different places. So then you try and, within the confines of the loop that you've got, you're trying to find the grippier bits and miss the slippier bits, and that changes. So the longer you go on, the slipperier it will be and the less grip you'll find. So I think it would get quite a lot harder beyond 40 laps. But it would be amazing if we could do 40 laps. That would be a few more than we've done currently. So
we'll see. The good thing is right now it's just a tip, but we'll see when this is released. Yeah. If you
hopefully,
were right,
hopefully there'll be some good news.
Okay, Richard, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and enjoy the spinning.
Will do. Thank you very much.